Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Moletrap here, coming at you with a very exciting game with Diggity as well. And as you can see right here, they're showing some old scenes. This is the E-Star Seoul Heritage tournament, I guess it's called. And this is going to be none other than NaDa versus NaDa. And I'm very excited to see this game because, for those of you that didn't notice, NaDa kind of retired. There's the man himself, sporting his KTF uniform. That's the team that he was on before he retired and became a commentator. And he's out on stage now as well. And NaDa's going to be coming out soon. Both these players, two of the absolute greats. These are the legends of StarCraft. I mean, imagine that you could go and just say, oh, let's have a home run contest between, you know, Willie Mays and Joe DiMaggio. And that's exactly what's going on in Korea right now. They're going to take basically 10 of the most famous StarCraft players ever and have a big tournament where they're all playing each other.
9 and Toss Girl.
And wait, what's that about Toss Girl?
9 and then Toss Girl.
I said 10 of the most famous StarCraft players ever. She's one of the most famous, definitely.
Like, okay, yeah. Yes.
Anyway, she's famous at least. She's never really had much acclaim as an actual player in terms of her prowess. She's never really been a formidable force or won any Star Leagues, but she's definitely been famous as pretty much the best female StarCraft player ever. Anyways, there's NaDa getting set up. NaDa's going to be getting set up on the other side. It's going to be really great to see what NaDa has in him still. I mean, because he hasn't been out of the game for that long. Maybe what, 6 months or something like that, and NaDa still just the last Star League was in the round of 16, I believe. So he is definitely still a force to be reckoned with. So it's going to be really fun to watch these guys play again.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty sizable advantage for NaDa coming back into this, because his playstyle was never, I'm going to out-macro you, or I'm going to out-micro you. He was always the player who will outthink you. He's just a very creative player, he's very smart, and it's really easy, I think, being a commentator to sit around and analyze everything and then come back with your own little ideas and insert them in. I don't think Moletrap or I are at the playing level where we can really do that. NaDa definitely is. And he gets to see NaDa all day and see his playing style, so I feel like NaDa has a sizable advantage because he's watching all these games. He's not really out of StarCraft coming back. He's not really out of practice. Well, he's out of practice, but not in the same way that the other players are. You can see NaDa focusing. NaDa, on the other hand, I feel like he's been slumping a bit. He hasn't been playing up to his usual level, which is usually pretty high. So generally, he hasn't been S-class in a while, I don't think, but he's generally been A-class, and I think this is actually the lowest I've seen him play in quite some time as far as NaDa level. So that'll be another nice little advantage for NaDa going into this game, I think. It looks like it will be on Outsider, and there's not a map I think you could pick that would be better for NaDa in that regard. So I think it's going to be a really fun matchup. Even though NaDa is the more practiced player, he's still in the Pro League, I think we're still going to see a very solid match.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that NaDa, he's probably not, and there's all the players that they're going to bring back. I just briefly showed him for a moment there. And we're going to be doing, these are like just really fun games to cast, so we're going to be doing a lot of them, so I won't bother going through and naming all of them. And in the one Boxer versus Reach, Color did a little bit more of an explanation about this week, so you can go back and watch that. That was a great game as well, if you haven't seen it yet. Anyway, yeah, this is going to be a pretty good matchup, and sorry about that. I was going to say, I think NaDa, he's, like I said, he hasn't been out of it for that long. And so I think he is, like you said, going to have a decent, he's still going to have pretty much most of his ability. And, you know, he's probably been practicing for this league as well, getting his skills back up a little bit. So, anyway, here's the game about to start. 3, 2, 1, 0, just to make sure we're still on sync, and away we go. And I cannot wait to see how this is going. And NaDa, one of the things about him, one of the reasons why I've always loved to watch him, well, everyone's always loved to watch him, is because, you know, like you were alluding to, he's always been a brain player. You know, he's been the player that's come up with interesting strategies, and he wins by outsmarting his opponent. He's never really been, you know, like you said, well, he's always had good micro, and he's had decent macro, but, you know, he's always been the one to come up with crazy strategies. I mean, who else would Cannon Rush Savior, you know? I mean, seriously. So So anyway, and NaDa has always been a pretty creative player as well, actually. Not nearly as creative as Ra. I mean, that's basically all what Ra is famous for, but NaDa can do his own thing as well. So anyway, should be fun to see what these guys pull out, and just kind of fun to watch these guys play again as well. Because again, both these guys are very old school, and so it's not often you get to see two old school players playing against each other. If they're sorry. So I don't know. Old school players, especially like NaDa, I guess he's adapted a lot, so his play won't necessarily be that different. But there's just a few little things here and there that old school players bring to the game that the new school players don't.
Right here, we're seeing classic NaDa. He's putting that gateway and that pylon towards the back of his base, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for NaDa to scout it. So maybe with that first Dragoon, he'll be able to pick it off, and NaDa may not have a good look, at least on the initial. NaDa not sealing his front door, and he's going to build that barracks to the corner. It looks like lift it up and use it for scouting. I still think he's going to go for a standard barracks gas build. And we'll see how this goes. Again, NaDa, a very smart player, not known for his macro. It's not like he's best, where he's just known for dominating with his macro, and it's not like he was in the kind of the Boxer. Boxer known for his creativity as well, but Boxer also known for monstrous micro. I guess Zelos would be a better player to say, where he was just an absolute micro fiend in his day. There's a cybernetic score on the back edge for NaDa, again kind of hiding his tech to that back corner. This will really pay off actually if NaDa scouted the other direction first. It looks, unfortunately, he's headed toward the 6 o'clock direction first, so that first Dragoon won't be out to really stop this. It's possible that NaDa will pull a probe off the line to block that front door, but even if he did, I don't think he's going to be able to stop NaDa's SCV scout from coming up the wall here. The other thing is I feel like, so it looks like NaDa is in fact going to, looked like he's going to back out there for a second. Now finally, scooting in, and he's, again, not seeing anything, so he's probably, maybe he'll hunt back that direction, but that is going to give him a little bit of pause. Now he's seeing the rest of that tech, but it could have paid off. It looks like a Zealot first, going to chase down that SCV. And I'm sorry, that actually is blocking the ramp. It was just at a funny angle where I couldn't see it. There's that factory. I was just looking at it kind of, for some reason I thought NaDa was at the 9 o'clock position instead of the 3 o'clock position. Then I looked at the mini map, it's like, wait a minute. Anyway, NaDa, I really feel like he plays his best when he gets to play aggressively, when he gets to play that standard Tornado Terran style, when he can just throw out the vultures out in the field and just put up some consistent pressure followed with steady macro. And I feel like that's what he plays strongest in, and I feel like that's where he's been out of for a very long time. He's been having to play a lot different style lately, and I think that's why he's suffered. And we'll see if he can kind of get back to that in this game. A Zealot and a Dragoon chasing after each other. It looks like they're running into each other a little bit there. And just very carefully, NaDa going to check that secondary out. I don't think he's going to be able to pull a loop around here, but at the very least able to get a look at things, maybe with a misfire. Not going to happen though, gets killed in that back edge. But both players, just opening up pretty standard thus far, but I gotta say I expect NaDa to do something at least interesting into the mid-game.
We'll see, but I mean, as much as we've been just talking about how NaDa is a great player, I personally think that NaDa does have a little bit of an advantage here just because he has been playing consistently lately. He's been doing a lot more practicing. I'm not sure how far NaDa's analysis of his games is going to go just against the sheer, in practice-ness of, we got a nice little hidden robo over here from NaDa, so he's really trying to be sneaky with all of his buildings here. Wouldn't matter terribly because NaDa's scout has, of course, been knocked out of his base. I wonder if he's even going to let this scout in almost intentionally. No, it looks like he's going to move to stop it. But he may get it in after all, and in which case NaDa might be a little bit confused when he looks around the base and doesn't see anything. He does get the scout in. The SCV is going to be able to run around. He runs straight over to that pylon. Doesn't see anything else on it. He's going to try and run around the base, but NaDa is very unlikely to be able to figure out where that pylon and the robotics facility are. But he spots the support bay, so he knows there's a robo somewhere, and he spots the Nexus, so wow. So NaDa knows everything now. NaDa really just kind of letting the ball drop on that. And wait, he's canceled the robotic support bay and made an observatory. So he's actually going to switch tech and try and mess with NaDa's knowledge of his tech and change things up and go for a second gateway instead. And wow, so nicely, this is going to be really interesting to see how this turns out and what NaDa is going to switch into, if he's going to switch into macro or what. But basically, if he doesn't go for a Reaver Harass, NaDa is expecting it. Look at this, he's putting up turrets to protect against a Reaver Harass that isn't going to come. So, you know, he could end up wasting some minerals on that, although if he just produces a Wraith, then that would pretty much deal with any shuttles anyway. But either way, he's going to be spending money on things to protect against a Reaver drop that isn't going to happen. In the meantime, we're probably going to see NaDa switch things up and go into a different tech build, or go into more of a macro build, maybe try and get his third base, or something like that. But in the meantime, we do see NaDa and NaLra, it's going to be hard to say. NaDa has some mines out. He's putting them down there for a Reaver drop possibility, and he's going to now go for a drop of his own, and this is really, he's going to be able to camp his tank and vultures on the other side of that mineral line where they're pointing right now, and NaLra without a shuttle isn't going to really have anything to do about it. He's going to lose that expansion.
The other thing is NaLra's gone very unit cheap. He's been investing a lot in tech. He invested a lot in that Nexus, and he just didn't have a lot of troops on the ground. There's that Wraith, which actually is, I like that decision by NaDa, just produce the Wraith rather than doing the additional troops. A couple Dragoons running up. This is a little bit, I'm kind of confused while Naira's deciding to put on pressure with just 3 Dragoons and a Zealot. It's really going to make him pay here, because first of all, it's difficult enough to try to take on a tank with Siege at that position with just Dragoons and no shuttle, but now he's going to be doing it. Oh, I love this by NaDa. NaDa doing a 2-pronged attack, bring the vultures in to that forward edge, and NaLra completely out of position. The siege tank's nailing. Ooh, this is going to be going right into the open arms of these vultures that are just sitting there picking away at them. Getting about 4 or 5 kills there. Still some mines in the way. The Dragoon's sitting there just kind of staring at them, getting a little bit close, but not triggering those mines. Let's see what NaLra can do from here. At the very least, his second base is getting halted, and I think NaDa is going to take an economic lead here. He's getting his second base up. This is also stopping NaLra from getting his additional base. So I like this play a little bit here. One thing I think is a little bit of a risk, there's that Zilt to clear those mines. One thing I think is a little bit of a risk going that starport so early is a big temptation for a lot of Terran players has been to just invest too heavily in dropships and not have enough tanks early in the game. And wow, that Nexus actually taking a significant amount of damage. So it's actually down to 300 and something hit points. So at the support dropship, he might be able to take this out with an additional tank or two, especially because those Dragoons, I don't think they're in range to stop this. So this could be very close. It's going to depend a lot on reinforcements, and if NaLra loses this Nexus, it's going to be game over. Ouch. Nexus down, so NaLra, yeah, just getting hit so hard by not having troops in position and getting caught right in his own tech switch. Now NaDa in a very firm position, going to be able to have that. Well, first of all, he doesn't have a second gas, but he still has that mineral only working for him. He has that economic edge, and he's going to have a troop advantage as well as a mobility advantage for a good while into the mid game here.
Wow, look at this. NaLra and Dignity, I'm sorry, because I think you're about 3 seconds behind me somehow. NaLra is getting his new expansion assaulted as well, although this time he has a shuttle. He's well prepared to deal with this, and he's got several Dragoons in the area. He's going to be able to deal with this pretty easily and clean that up. So second drop not nearly as effective, but taking out a Nexus is not bad at all. In the meantime, NaDa got up his expansion to the left of his base, and he's still got that Wraith chilling there if NaLra decides to go move in and attack. NaDa's probably going to keep that around, and we're probably going to see in the main battle when NaLra tries to go in for some Zealot bombs, we're probably going to see NaDa using that Wraith against the shuttle whenever it finally shows itself later on. But in the meantime, NaDa's just going to try and play a macro game here. He's got another dropship running around at the moment. Uh-oh, it is running through. Oh, it's running. Oh, he sees the Dragoons just in time. He's going to be able to get away. And he's going to drop a couple, drop those vultures out to get him out of the way, and he's just going to run around those Dragoons. So nicely done. And you know, this is really the key in many Terran versus Protoss games, is to do the vulture blast, just kill probes, keep killing probes, keep killing their keep killing their probes as much as possible, and keeping their economy down and getting your own economy going, and that can lead to victory in the long run while you're macroing up. So, but you know, NaLra's not quite out of it yet. There's still 2 base versus 2 base. NaLra's getting his third base up. If he can do some damage back to NaDa, who at this point has been pretty much untouched, but if he can do some damage back to NaDa, he can still be in it.
One thing I think that was critical, though, is when those siege tanks were on that ledge earlier, there was about 6 or 7 probe kills, which was just absolutely devastating for NaLra. Feasibly, NaDa could get back into this game, but he's got a lot of work to do, an absolute huge amount of work to do. And this is exactly what I was talking about NaDa style earlier. This is the way I love to see NaDa play, which is just, even though these vultures aren't being very effective, they're still managing to get in the base, do a little bit of harassment, keep those troops back, and then he just keeps up with that steady macro, and that's even going to get a little, looks like a probe kill here. So very cheap investment for a lot of distraction, and it really keeps his opponents on his toes. This is how I think NaDa plays best. I know I'm being a little bit heavy-handed in NaDa's favor, doing it intentionally, because truth be told, NaDa is my favorite player, period. So I really want to see him win this match. So we'll see if he comes out with this. But still, I feel like NaDa is still at those 3 gates, hasn't really improved his production all that much. In the meantime, NaDa's up with a lot of bases. He's got a lot of troops flooding out, and I would not be surprised if he just decides to move out in the mid game with a ton of tanks in not too long, if NaDa doesn't increase his attack force in the near future.
Yeah, and we're seeing a little FP view here of NaDa. And, you know, I don't think he was ever really that strong of a player as far as his APM or anything like that, but I wonder if his lack of lots of practice has actually lowered his speed down, because that is something that kind of you can lose over time is your APM if you're not constantly making those muscles move. Didn't look like he was moving terribly fast there, but here comes in with an attack, Zealot Bomb, and a Reaver directly on top of that group of tanks. If he did scare, oh, I don't think a Scarab even got off. In the meantime, a ton of Vultures in his main base. Both players slaughtering each other's expansions here, and NaDa just has a bunch of SCVs trying to stay in the way of those Dragoons, trying to kill them off. I think that NaDa is going to, well, no, NaDa is having to back off. I was going to say I think NaDa is going to come out better because he's going to be able to kill off the expansion, but it looks as if those tanks in the back held, and wow, he's got Dragoons on the opposite side of the minerals to block against things in that side, but they're not helping too much against those Vultures. Those Vultures took out a lot of probes, a ton of probes, and finally Dragoons getting cleaned up in the front there. And honestly, both those plays looked a little bit sloppy. It looked like NaDa was concentrating, well, the reason why is NaDa was concentrating so much on his harass with his Vultures that he wasn't able to pay attention to the attack on his own base there, and it looked almost as if NaDa wasn't able to pay attention to the attack because he was paying attention to his own base as well. So just a lot of crazy stuff going on at the same time. Absolutely ridiculous. Both players doing these attacks simultaneously, but in the end, no truly major hits from either player there. Wow, they're showing right now only 1 machine shop still for NaDa, so losing those tanks, kind of a big deal because he didn't have a ton of tanks to begin with. Anyway, but he's gonna be able to come back from that. I'm surprised that he isn't actually, he's got 2 gas now, so he should be able to be making more tanks than that, or maybe he's saving up his gas for, I don't know what he's saving up his gas for exactly, but I guess maybe he's getting upgrades, and I haven't noticed if he has armory spinning or anything like that.
In the meantime, oh, these Dragoons going to get taken down by these Vultures. Actually, nice spread to get 2 of them out free. They're still going to get hunted down by the rest of these Vultures. But I got to disagree at least on one point. NaDa's economy has been hit so hard and so often. His probe saturation is absolutely pitiful. NaDa has just been hit time and time again by those Vulture raids. Right now he can't even produce troops out of these gateways, got to clear the mines first. NaDa has just kept the pressure on, that's kept NaDa on the back foot, and I feel like NaDa has just been economically ahead for quite some time ever since he took that Nexus down. And I feel like he's getting further and further ahead as this game progresses. And this is NaDa's stereotypical grinding style, the one that he's so successful with, you know, just apply that pressure. It's just that, it's like that one thumb in your shoulder that guy just keeps leaning into. And the more time goes on, the more that starts hurting, and eventually you just get a big old, yeah, seriously, you gotta hate that guy. So NaDa actually in a very strong economic position, NaDa hurting a little bit, and I don't know what NaDa can really do to get back into this without some very nice storm drops or something like that, but honestly with all the Vultures that look like they're going to be produced, NaDa going very Vulture heavy again. It looks like he just has a single machine shop, another dropship wandering out to 9 o'clock, that Observer, yeah, it looks like that Observer getting killed, and now we see a shuttle, or a dropship. I'm not sure if I'm synced up with Moletrap now or not, but we see a dropship moving out in the field. NaDa running up though for what looks to be an all-in attack, So the question is I think it's going to be this attack or nothing for NaDa. It looks like a Reaver is managing to disrupt a little bit of the mining there at the right, but I think he's going to go in not too long, and this is the worst possible timing. A lot of tanks just hanging out on that front door, but not a lot of mines planted in the front either, and this is just as some vultures are going to wander in and attack NaDa's main. So I feel like the timing's really bad for NaDa right here.
Yeah, there's that Wraith finally coming into play against that shuttle, as NaDa finally trying to do some drops, and these drops are what he's been needing to do for such a long time, because like you said, yeah, I do have to agree that he has been hitting the economy a lot. Not to a catastrophic degree, but I think the main thing here is that NaDa has been hitting NaDa's economy, but not vice versa. NaDa finally was able to take out a couple SCVs with that Reaver a short time ago, but before that he had not touched NaDa's economy, and now NaDa, with 4 thriving bases, having barely lost any SCVs at all, and NaDa just getting his 4th up now is definitely behind. I mean, the rule of thumb with PVT is that you want to have, at least an extra base over the Terran, especially if they're turtling in. You want to use that time to expand if they're turtling, which Terrans often do, and so I mean, NaDa's just been showing his base, sending out the vultures and what have you, and so NaDa really should have been able to hopefully have time to get up more bases before then. So he is behind in that sense, and yeah, he is basically that's what he needs to get back into the game. Is he needs some really good drops, some storm drops, or something of the sort. Or I guess theoretically, if he's able to pull off something really good in an attack, if he's able to catch NaDa pushing out and catch his army off guard and do a flank on it, then if he gets map advantage, he's going to be able to go around and maybe kill one of NaDa's expansions. That's another way he could theoretically get back into the game. But that's really difficult to do, especially against a Terran army with so many vultures. And here he is pushing out. NaDa is waiting for him outside of his base, and it looks like he's going to try and actually counter. No, he's not. So both players kind of realizing their army was there, are going to back off. I'm not sure if NaDa is going to be able to get out of his base, because NaDa is waiting there, waiting to just, oh my gosh, here we go. Let's see what he can do. Pushing out with a ton of tanks and a ton of vultures, and I really don't see what NaDa can do against this. I don't think he's quite has the army to deal with this. He doesn't have the tech to go with this. And look at those zealots just melting, just absolutely melting, not getting anywhere near the tanks. And this is not good for NaDa.
Yeah, I guess for a while I thought he was going to be pushing up. I guess instead he decided to try to take some of those Nexus at the 3 o'clock position, Nexus at the 3 o'clock position. Big attack pushing in, all storms everywhere. That's exactly what he needs, actually, is to melt those tanks back. And very nice storms are going to win that fight for NaDa, so NaDa actually going to be able to come right back in this, wiping out that huge attack force, despite being at an upgrade disadvantage. So, and mines not in the way critically. Now pushing in the vultures, desperately trying to get some mines out in front, but not a lot of reinforcements coming back. NaDa should back off at this point. He was successful in pushing that back, but instead he's going to careen in with some zealots. He's still going to get some tanks out. Just 5 dragoons backing this up, and with the quick reinforcement point, he needs to, be a little bit more careful. Okay, now he's backing off. He's still got an Archon. He still has some dragoons. The problem for NaDa, though, is will he be able to replenish his troops fast enough to keep up with NaDa replenishing his troops? And I think NaDa realizes this. He's immediately going to send out another foray of vultures to try to hunt down what they can. I think another reason for that troop position, just in retrospect, is NaDa wanted to try to put some sort of lid on these vultures that were constantly harassing him, make sure his army was out in front to engage them as they're moving out. 3 machine shops built, but it looks like it's just mostly vultures being produced here, not a lot of siege tanks. And if NaDa allows these bases here, actually it doesn't look like he's going to. He's going to run in and just try to pick off some probes here and there, but honestly I think he needs to move a little bit larger an attack force to that position, even though I think he's got that upper left-hand corner running pretty well. Ooh, there's a shuttle. It looks like this is what I was talking about earlier. 2 High Templar moving in, and it doesn't look like NaDa's going to see it, even though the Templar are just hanging out there waiting for energy, finally seeing it. They're going to be able to get to the chopper. So NaDa not going to be able to get anything with these High Templar, but that is going to stop mining there. Just their presence is going to stop mining right there. That's got to be frustrating. But still, I think NaDa should use what he's got and put some pressure there at the 3 o'clock position. And if Nalra tries to push out, turn around and try to do some more damage right at the main, and Archon getting dropped in that backfield, and just Vulture's there to contend with it. So it looks like he is going to be able to get something done here in this upper left-hand corner.
Archon versus Terran base. Who wins? Archon does. Unless he gets some Vultures over there. Yeah, it looks like he's going to be able to get... Well, the Vultures are going to be able to do full damage against the shields of that Archon. So, yeah, it's going to get taken down pretty quickly. That was painful to watch those Templar run in there and then non-storm. I wonder if he didn't have energy. I wonder if maybe it was even just a scare tactic just to get him to pull the SCVs off for a little bit or something like that. But yeah, I mean, with 4 bases running, and now actually 5 bases running, NaDa can basically produce infinite Vultures. There's no end to the amount of Vultures he can make, so he might as well just pump them out and just send them out wherever he needs to. That's just ridiculous. I was really amazed that Nalra actually held out that battle. I wanted to mention that again because that was awesome. I didn't think he had... I saw he didn't have arbors, he didn't have the shuttle. I thought he was going to get slaughtered, but those storms were just perfect. And he had just the right unit composition as well. NaDa needed actually a few more Vultures in that battle. To really hold off all those zealots, and that was just amazing. And that bought Nalra the time to get 2 more bases up on the left. So now we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 bases for Nalra versus 5 for NaDa. So again, NaDa still has a pretty decent economic advantage, but I think he hasn't done a lot of harassment in a while. I think Nalra's been able to rebuild his probes back up. He's been able to get the Arbiter tech out. And no science vessels out for NaDa at this point, so Nalra has the potential to win the next battle, which might be happening right here. And if he does, then he's going to be back in this game because there's not many bases on the map left to take. So, and NaDa's going to need another 1 or 2 if the game goes much longer.
Yeah, I was really shocked after that big exchange. I think Nalra had 5 gateways where NaDa had 9 factories, that NaDa wasn't able just to completely run over Nalra at that stage with just a huge troop advantage. Instead, I'm not sure what NaDa's doing. He's just kind of gathering up in the middle. It looks like he's kind of posing for an attack, sitting outside a much smaller, actually, Zealot, Dragoon, Templar. He's really going to have to do some sword damage, dodging. But here, NaDa also doesn't have any science vessels. He also doesn't have EMP. He's going to have to rely entirely on Comsat, which I don't see him using here. A couple Goliaths in the background. Beautiful stays from Nalra there to isolate, looks like 6 or 7 tanks.
Wow.
And that's all he needs to delay that army. I'm not sure what NaDa's doing here, not having science vessels in the air, or at least not getting, actually losing production at upper left. He should have had the science vessels out much sooner, or he should have continued with the upgrades, or he should have pressed long before this attack. So NaDa, it looks like he was like, okay, I'm going to do my standard harass thing. Then he expected Nalra to just kind of turn around. It looks like we're going to see a recall here at the 3 o'clock, and this is going to put Nalra, I would say, in the lead if he takes this base out, and it doesn't look like there's anything to oppose this. Finally, NaDa moving in with some siege tanks and whatnot to the 9 o'clock position, so just as soon as I say that, never mind. It looks like the troops he recalled were the troops that were in between that armory and that 3 o'clock position. I think Nalra was thinking, well, I can't really hold it with this attack troop anyway. Didn't want to expend any more stasis and didn't think he was going to be able to stop that attack force. So instead, he's going to run right into NaDa's main, try to take out as many factories as he can. If the reinforcements can hold, though, I think this is going to give NaDa the game, simply because he'll be able to reestablish his economy without too much trouble. Nalra's going to have a much harder time reestablishing his economy, and the Terran troops are just so much more hardy. You can just really, it feels almost like Zerg units. There's Zerglings out in the field. You expend units so quickly, especially Dragoons against the siege tanks, and especially Zealots are just suicide units for ire out there into the mid game. I should say into the late game here. But yeah, so as soon as I say, oh, NaDa doesn't have science vessels out, he runs up and just has this absolutely brutal crushing attack, and now he's definitively, I would say, in the lead.
Yeah, definitely. And he would have liked to have had the science vessels to try and do some EMP on that attack, but in the end, he just had too many forces. Nalra has just not been able to build up his forces as fast as NaDa has, and we see the devastating effect of that right now. Oh, nice self-storm with the Templar. He's got 7 kills on that Templar right now. But I think the SCV is actually going to kill that High Templar. There it goes. But anyway, Nalra, after that big attack, he was able to hold. and but it just oh man, look at his cloaked probes trying to fight, but NaDa, he's always on top of the comsats when he needs them actually, and so and a recall on top of that single siege tank. This is a little bit of desperation though from NaDa. He's gonna be able to do pretty decently though against this little force, and those units are gonna be able to take out most of those tanks and drive them back away from that. And there's finally some science vessels in play. So he's going to be able to drive him back there. NaDa did not expect to lose that force, I think. I think he thought that was the game-winning force right there. If he could take out that last expansion of NaDa's. But anyway, what was my point? I had a point back there, and the point was that, yes, that NaDa was able to get his army back up a little bit quicker, and with Protoss versus Terran, you just need to get so much, you need to refill your army so quickly, because otherwise, if you leave any Terran units alive, any at all, they'll just walk over all your bases at this point, because I think he has 2-3 upgrades, and that's exactly what happened. He left those 6 or 7 tanks in stasis alive, ran his Dragoons away, and then those 6 or 7 tanks got a little bit of backup and were able to just bowl over 2.5 bases. Here we see NaDa has now broken through the minerals, mined out the minerals to the bottom right of his base, and is now able to march forces directly down his ramp into that area, into NaDa's new base on the right. So things not looking good for NaDa, definitely. But he's still putting up a fight.
Yeah, it looks like NaDa's just going to use those vultures. See if we're going to get another recall or just a stasis here. There is an Arbiter at that location, but more vultures, continuous pressure, and that Arbiter going to get taken out without a fight. Ouch. Comsat, just in case there was anything underneath. Doesn't look like there was, but more vultures dashing in, going to be able to get more probe kills, and yeah, now NaDa is completely isolated to his portion of the map. NaDa though, or I should say NaDa, still not taking the bases. It looks like at the 9 o'clock. I think you should think about doing that sooner rather than later, just to make sure he can continue with that pressure. I still don't think he's mining at that top left corner. Looks like his natural expansion still does have a couple minerals here and there, but and he's also got that attack force camped in the middle of the map, and I'm not quite sure what that's about, especially along that position. Just a bunch of siege tanks there, just kind of chilling, I guess, just in case some vultures decide to wander out there. Whatever. Some Dragoons now marching up. The Dragoons, I feel like, will just melt. I really feel like Zealots are more important at this stage of the game than the Dragoons. Dragoons can still do that heavy damage, but they just die so quickly. I almost feel like it's better to have more Zealots in pure number than Dragoons. And this, a very Zealot light attack force, is going to get absolutely devastated. That shuttle might have some High Templar in there to even things up, and that definitely does help. But they're still not going to be able to take the tanks out. And I still feel like this is just kind of a streamlined force. NaDa should be able to bring some reinforcements up to kind of, still some nice storms, but there you can see the siege tanks still just standing with those upgrades. They can just eat it. They're like, yeah, looks like it's raining outside, no biggie. And still just press on. The reinforcements still come through, and now NaDa, I don't think he has any attack units on the ground, and NaDa has this huge tank vulture force with some Goliaths mixed in too, just for a little bit of spice. And there's that science vessel with the cherry on top, just kind of wandering free out in the middle of the map.
Vulture spice. That should have been one of the spice. We should start a new Spice Girls group, except we'll call it like Vulture Spice and Tank Spice. Actually, that's the worst idea I've had in months. But I think part of the reason why NaDa's forces were up there is because they were protecting basically his only true mining expansion, which is kind of the sort of inner map expansion. Looks like a mineral only actually, at about 11 o'clock. And so they were kind of in the middle of the map, but they were also protecting against that attack, and that's where NaDa was heading with that attack. When he did all those storms, was after that expansion. He could no getting up that ramp for you. If he could have gotten over to that expansion and taken it out, then NaDa would have been, yeah, here's the expansion right there. Then NaDa would not have been mining much at all, because NaDa has managed to keep mining stopped at the top left corner. He managed to destroy that base at the right side. And oh, some beautiful storms on that clump of vultures. Wow, having to retreat, but a little bit too late. But oh no, that would be a dozen tanks, and that would be pretty much it. I don't think he has enough storm to deal with this. Putting up a good fight. Wow, nice. Some more storm. Jesus Christ, how many storms has he had? He stormed those vultures like 5 or 6 times. Now he's got 5 or 6 more storms for these. He can't have many storms left, so that's pretty much going to be it because you know, he doesn't have any expansions at all at this point, at all. That are mining, and so it's nice stasis is going to hold things off for just a little bit, but it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, it just feels like the inevitable. Even if he loses the Arbiter, even if he manages to kill these troops that are stasis, he's got more reinforcements bearing down. I think that's his last 2 Dragoons. I would expect GG as soon as that last one's killed. It's very heroic, though. The last of his kind rushing out there to fight. See if the probes pull up the line to a fight, too. No, it looks like they're just going to chill and get killed. NaDa just down to the bottom. That's it. He's got that 1 probe, 2 Zealots, looks like, wandering out. Wow. There's got to be a movie that's made in the deep future. It's the last 2 Zealots of Ire. And what do they decide to do? They decide to charge the Terran force at the very end, all the Goliaths and tanks over that ridge to try to, yeah. Anyway, looks like NaDa is going to in fact win. Exactly, Butch Cassidy, Sundance Zealot. Still a couple troops out in the field. NaDa finally starting to mine in that upper left-hand corner again. Looks like NaDa's going to do a spite recall to that location with all of 5 troops that are probably going to be able to... yeah. Yeah, there it is. I think the SCVs might be able to fight this off, actually. The SCVs do have hardy hit points, but I like that spite recall. That's kind of the screw you. I can still fight. Going to be able to take that command center out. It's not going to make a bit of difference, though.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the things I admire about NaDa. You don't see it as much out of Nalra, but that's one of the things I admire about NaDa is the fact that he will fight to the bitter end. He will not GG until his last engineering bay is burning in the corner of the map. So, you know, you gotta hand it to Nalra for putting up a fight and just trying to get, you know, and you see a lot of pro gamers, they'll just try and do one last little spite attack just to do as much damage as they can on the way out to get some pride. And so Nalra's doing a decent amount here. Took out a base. That's not bad for a 5-unit recall, taking out a base at the last second. There's GG coming from Nalra. NaDa takes the game after over a half an hour of some excellent back and forth play, and I think really what clinched the form was in fact just the constant economic harassment, and able to get enough of an army to end up having a superior force and start taking out bases of Nalras in the mid-late game there. So yeah, any final thoughts, Diggity?
I gotta say, Nalra stayed in that game a lot longer than I thought he would, and I was very impressed, particularly by that one attack with the storms. That was some really nice storm. If he didn't have those High Templar right at that second, taking out all of those tanks, I thought that was going to be the moment where NaDa was just going to be able to run him over. But instead, NaDa able to prevail, just had a much larger army, able to just, I guess, hold out over a longer period of time. Again, just doing kind of the classic NaDa style, would say. But still a great game, much better than I was hoping for, I think. Good half-an-hour competition, good slugfest, which is what you want to see out of these two guys. So, yeah, I was very pleased overall. And NaDa won. Yeah!
Yeah, definitely. I gotta say, I gotta hand it to Nalra. You know, being out of practice, he really put up, to be honest, and I hate to say that I didn't have as much faith in Nalra as I could have, but he really put up a lot better fight than I expected. I mean, I expect him to get really bowled over those first 2 major attacks, and somehow he managed to get some perfect storms off, and managed to hold and keep the game going. And it really was, you know, he really was still in the game until the point where he lost those 2 bases on the left. So you got to hand it for him, and yeah, it was definitely an awesome slugfest, and you know, that's really what you want to see start in StarCraft, anyways. Especially considering the fact that this is probably, as much as it pains me to say it, this is probably the last time we will ever see these 2 guys play against each other ever again. Because, you know, with Nalra retired, just coming out for this Heritage Tournament, probably the last time we'll see these guys play. So, pretty good match for the last time. 2 pretty good match came out of it. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that game. Look out for some more of these Heritage Tournament games in the future. Take care, and thanks for watching.